If you love stories of overcoming, revenge, and twists and turns that life brings, then this channel is for you. Here, each story will keep you hooked from beginning to end. So subscribe now, activate the bell, leave your like, and come with me, because today's story is simply unmissable. The icy breeze of the autumn morning invaded the small kitchen, dancing between the half-empty cups and the remains of bitter coffee. Maria watched the steam disappear slowly, just as her dreams seemed to dissipate in recent months. That apartment, once a love nest and plans with Rodrigo, now echoed with the deafening silence of absence. His absence, physical and emotional. Every object, every corner, screamed the story of a past that stubbornly refused to fade. The smiling photographs on the refrigerator seemed to mock her present pain, a constant reminder of what had been lost. A persistent knot tightened her throat, preventing tears from flowing, but not the agonizing pain that consumed her. From within, Rodrigo was gone, taking with him not only his clothes and belongings, but also the promise of a future together, the security of a love that Maria believed to be unwavering. That breakup, sudden and cruel, had left her adrift, without ground, questioning every shared moment, every word exchanged. Had it all been an illusion? The phone rang, a strident sound that startled her from her somber musings. It was her mother, her voice always worried and affectionate, trying once again to bring some comfort to her broken heart. Maria answered, forcing a lighter tone of voice than she actually felt. But her mother's words of comfort seemed futile in the face of the magnitude of her sadness. How could she explain to someone the feeling of having her world crumble beneath her feet? How could she translate into words the silent betrayal, the sudden coldness that had left her so lost and vulnerable? Her mother spoke of starting over, of finding strength within herself, but at that moment, Maria couldn't see any light at the end of that dark tunnel. Disappointment enveloped her like a heavy cloak, suffocating any remaining hope or optimism. She felt empty, as if an essential part of herself had been brutally torn away. The future, once so clear and promising, now presented itself as an uncertain and frightening blur. Weeks dragged on, slow and painful. Maria struggled to maintain a routine, to fulfill her commitments, but every day was a battle against overwhelming sadness. Work, which had once brought her satisfaction, now seemed like just a burden to carry. The nights were the worst, filled with restless nightmares and the constant memory of the warmth of Rodrigo's arms. She found herself mentally reviewing every moment of the relationship, searching for signs, for clues that might have foreseen the cruel outcome. But she found nothing but happy memories, promises of eternal love that now sounded like bad jokes. Her friends tried to cheer her up, inviting her out to distract her mind, but Maria felt incapable of sharing any joy. She preferred the isolation of her apartment, where she could indulge in her pain without having to feign a happiness she didn't feel. Solitude, once feared, now seemed her only reliable companion. Amidst that whirlwind of negative emotions, a small ray of light began to emerge, timid and hesitant. Maria realized her body was different. She felt an unusual tiredness and morning sickness she couldn't explain. At first, she ignored the signs, attributing them to the stress and anxiety that consumed her. But the persistence of the symptoms led her to see a doctor. The test result hit her like an electric shock, paralyzing her for a moment. Pregnant. She was pregnant with Rodrigo's child. A wave of conflicting feelings washed over her: surprise, fear, hesitant joy, but above all, a deep confusion. What would her life be like now? How would she raise a child alone, with her heart still wounded by the father's? Rejection. The news confronted her with a new reality, very different from the one she had imagined for herself. Pregnancy brought with it a new perspective, an unexpected strength that began to sprout amidst her pain. Maria knew she needed to be strong, not just for herself, but for that little being growing in her womb. The idea of having a child, of generating new life, injected a dose of hope into her once so hopeless heart. She began to take care of herself, paying attention to her diet, reading about motherhood. Little by little, the focus of her attention shifted from the pain of loss to the anticipation of the baby's arrival. However, the memory of Rodrigo was still a constant shadow, hovering over her thoughts. Did he know about the pregnancy? Should she tell him? Doubt gnawed at her, dividing her between the desire to share that joy, however bittersweet, and the fear of further rejection. Maria decided that Rodrigo needed to know, not for him, but for the child she carried. She met him at a cafe, the atmosphere heavy with uncomfortable silence. He listened to her in shock, his face impassive as she tried to control the tears that insisted on falling. His reaction was cold, distant. He claimed he wasn't ready to be a father, that this wasn't the right time. His words were like knives to her already wounded heart. Once again, Rodrigo rejected her, now not only her, but also the child they were expecting. Disappointment hit her hard, but this time there was something different. Instead of drowning in sadness, Maria felt a growing anger, a fierce determination to move on, to prove to him and to herself that she was capable, that she would be a wonderful mother, even without his support. Rodrigo's refusal was a hard blow, but paradoxically, it served as a catalyst for Maria's transformation. She realized she could no longer allow herself to live in the shadow of a broken heart. She needed to focus on her son, on building a happy and secure life for him. She sought support from her family and friends, who welcomed her with affection and offered all the help she needed. She began to make plans for the future, to imagine her baby's little face, the first steps, the first words. Enrolling in a childbirth preparation course and learning about early newborn care brought her closer to the reality of motherhood, dispelling some of the fear she still felt. Each ultrasound was a moment of pure magic, the opportunity to see her son, to hear his heartbeat, a constant reminder of the force of life growing inside her. The months of pregnancy brought challenges, but also a growing sense of purpose. Maria felt stronger every day, more confident in her ability to face the future. She renovated a room in the apartment for the baby, choosing vibrant colors and cozy furniture. Every detail was thoughtfully considered with the anticipation of welcoming her son. At work, she found support from her colleagues, who were understanding and supportive. Even with Rodrigo's absence, Maria didn't feel alone. She had the strength of her child within her, the driving energy that propelled her forward. Sometimes loneliness would grip her chest. The memory of happy times with Rodrigo would assault her, but soon she would redirect her thoughts to the present, to the small life that depended on her. The day of the delivery arrived, a mixture of nervousness and excitement. Maria faced the pain with courage, driven by the desire to finally meet her son. Rodrigo wasn't there, and at that moment she realized it no longer mattered. Her strength came from within, from that invisible bond that already united her to the baby. When she heard the first cry, tears flowed abundantly, but this time they were tears of joy, of relief, of an unconditional love that completely overwhelmed her. In her arms, a beautiful and healthy little boy looked at her with his curious little eyes. Maria smiled, a genuine smile she hadn't felt for a long time. There, at that instant, she knew that her life had gained a new meaning, a new reason to fight and be happy. She named him Lucas. The first months with Lucas were challenging, filled with sleepless nights, endless feedings, and the constant worry of a first-time mother. But every toothless smile, every curious look, every small progress Lucas made was an immense reward for Maria. She discovered herself to be a dedicated and loving mother, capable of overcoming any obstacle for her son. Lucas's presence filled the void that Rodrigo's absence had left. The unconditional love she felt for her son was much stronger and more meaningful than any passion she had ever experienced. Maria learned to trust her instincts, to seek information and support when needed, but above all, to fully surrender to motherhood. Lucas was her priority, her driving force, the reason for her happiness. Over time, the pain of Rodrigo's rejection lessened, giving way to a serene acceptance. Maria realized that her worth did not depend on the love of a man. She was strong, independent, and capable of building a happy life on her own, alongside her son. She went back to work, balancing her career with motherhood, showing admirable determination and resilience. She found new friends, other mothers who shared her experiences and challenges. Little by little, Maria rebuilt her life, brick by brick, on a solid foundation of self-love and dedication to Lucas. The past could not be erased, but it no longer defined her. She was focused on the present and the future, on the infinite possibilities that motherhood provided her. One day, Rodrigo tried to get closer again. He saw photos of Lucas on social media, learned about his development through mutual friends. He called Maria, asking to see him. She hesitated, but eventually agreed. The meeting was strange, filled with uncomfortable silence. Rodrigo seemed regretful, spoke about the mistake he made, about how guilty he felt for abandoning Maria and their son. She listened to him coldly, without resentment, but also without the old passion. Maria had changed, matured. That man who now showed interest in her life was no longer the same one she had fallen in love with. Her focus was on Lucas, on his well-being. Maria allowed Rodrigo to see Lucas, setting clear boundaries and always prioritizing her son's well-being. There was no room to rekindle the past, to relive a story of pain. She had found happiness elsewhere, in motherhood, in her newfound independence. Rodrigo realized he had lost the chance to build a family with Maria and Lucas. He saw her strength and determination, the incredible mother she had become. That meeting served to definitively seal the past, to show both of them how much they had changed and gone their separate ways. Maria no longer felt anger or bitterness, just a certain indifference towards him. Her priority was Lucas, and nothing else mattered. Years passed, and Maria became a fulfilled woman, both personally and professionally. Lucas grew up strong and healthy, an intelligent and affectionate boy who was the joy of her life. She built a successful career, achieved her financial independence, and fulfilled many of her dreams. Looking back, Maria recognized the pain of her heartbreak, but she also saw how much she had grown and strengthened through that experience. Motherhood had transformed her, awakening in her a strength and resilience she never imagined she possessed. That initial suffering became a scar, a mark of her journey, but it no longer defined her. Maria was a complete, happy and fulfilled woman, the master of her own destiny. On a sunny spring day, Maria watched Lucas play in the park, his smile radiant as he ran after a ball. She felt a deep gratitude for life, for the twists and turns that had brought her to that moment. That love, that son, were all she needed to be happy. The heartbreak of the past had transformed into learning, into strength, into a new perspective on what truly mattered in life. Maria smiled at Lucas, and he returned the smile, running to hug her. In that tight hug, she knew she had turned the corner, that she had found happiness where she least expected it, within herself and in the unconditional love of her son. The future stretched before her, full of possibilities and joys, and Maria faced it with confidence and hope.